So, welcome back to another episode of Self-Development with Tactics podcast, we're gonna go ahead with Atlas Shrugged or whatever it is called. It should be somewhere in the title, should be maybe in the description. Might be dirty there. Yeah, probably been. Anyway, I've just been eating before. This might be why. I don't know exactly where I've stopped, but I think that I've stopped there. But, if it is not the case, then maybe you have to kind of go back a bit or go forth a bit and yeah. We're gonna fucking see, If it is now believed that my fellow man may sacrifice me in any manner, they please for the sake of whatever they deem to be their own good. If they believe that they may seize my property simply because they need it, well, so does any burglar. There is only this difference. The burglar does not ask me to sanction his act. The public may curtail my profits any time it wishes by refusing to buy my product. We are speaking of other methods. Any other method of curtailing profits, or curtailing actually, profits is the method of looters, and I recognize it as such. If you choose to deal with man by means of compulsion, do so. But you will discover that it needs the voluntary cooperation of your victims what I'm actually reading. in many more ways than you see at present. And your victims should discover that it is their own volition, which you cannot force, that makes you possible. I choose to be consistent and I will obey you in the manner you demand. Whatever you wish me to do, I will do it at the point of a gun. If you sentence me to jail, you will have to send armed men to carry me there. I will not volunteer to move. If you fine me, you will have to seize my property to collect the fine. I will not volunteer to pay. If you believe that you have the right to force me, use your guns openly. I will not help you to disguise the nature of your action. By the way, it is still the same book, but I don't know what the fuck I'm reading, to really be honest. Have I stopped there? I don't know. If you say Atlas the giant who holds the world on the shoulders, if we saw that he stood... Well, you know what? Yes, I have read that. Atlas Shrugged, the book is called. Atlas Shrugged. Because I don't actually know what this book is all about. I think that I went through this already. Yeah, probably have, but anyway. It's a novel by Ayn Rand. Rand's fourth and final novel. It was also her longest and the one she considered to be her magnum opus in the realm of fiction writing. Atlas Shrugged includes elements of science fiction, mystery, and romance, blah, 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 blah. I want to know what it is all about. It is set in a dystopian United States at an unspecific time in which the country has a national legislature instead of Congress and a head of state instead of a president. The United States also appears to be approaching an economic collapse, with widespread shortages, constant business failures, and severely decreased productivity. The government has gradually extended its control over business by passing even more stringent regulations that increase favor established and stagnant corporations. The plot. Dagny Taggart, the operating vice president of Taggart Transcontinental Railroad, keeps the company going amid a sustained economic depression. As economic conditions worsen and government enforces statist controls on successful business, people are heard repeating the cryptic phrase, "Who is John Galt?" Which means, don't ask questions nobody can answer. Or more broadly, why bother? Her brother James, the railroad president, seems to make irrational decisions, such as buying from Orient Boyle's unreliable Associated Steel. Dagny is also disappointed to discover that the Argentine billionaire Francisco d'Aconia, her childhood friend and first love, is risking his family's copper company by destructing the San Sebastian copper mines, even though Mexico will probably nationalize them. Yeah, and so on and so forth. I refuse to accept as guilt the fact of my own existence and the fact that I must work in order to support it. I refuse to accept as guilt the fact that I am able to do it and do it well. I refuse to accept as guilt the fact that I am able to do it better than most people, the fact that my work is of greater value than the work of my neighbors and that more men are willing to pay me. I refuse to apologize for my ability. I refuse to apologize for my success. I refuse to apologize for my money If this is evil, make the most out of it. I could say to you that I have done more good for my fellow man than you can ever hope to accomplish. But I will not say it, because I do not seek the good of others as a sanction for my right to exist. This is actually a pretty good point, like, do your shit, do good things, but do not necessarily rely. And I do want to underline and emphasize rely on other people's praise. I mean, of course, it is nice, and I do also suggest other people to praise other people because I think that it is a good thing. But relying on it personally might not make any sense, you know? Nor do I recognize the good of others as a justification for their seizure of my property or their destruction of my life. If it were true that man could achieve their good by means of turning some men into sacrificial animals, and I were asked to immolate myself for the sake of creatures who wanted to survive at the price of my blood, if I were asked to serve the interests of society apart from, above, and against my own, I would refuse. I would reject it as the most contemptible evil. I would fight it with every power I possess. I would fight the whole of mankind. If 1 minute were all I could last before I were murdered, I would fight in a full confidence of the justice of my battle and of a living being's right to exist. I do want to point something out, which was actually part of the upper paragraph there. I could say to you that I have done more good for my fellow man than you can ever hope to accomplish, but I will not say it. And besides the fact that, yeah, I think that being humble is good. I like it. I don't necessarily think that bragging and playing a jerk and trying to impress other people by the shit that you've done or with the shit that you've done and yada 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 is important nor smart nor whatever. But since I've been really thinking about the different things like, okay, purpose in life and what I should be doing with my life and what I'm actually seeking in my life, I've actually come to the conclusion that being kind and doing something good for other people is some underlying meaning that really plays out quite well, at least in my life. And you can actually, quote unquote, attach it to whatever the fuck I'm doing or one is doing. I'm recording this fucking episode. I'm talking or just reading the summary or talking about the summary because I believe and I think that it could help somebody out there. Maybe. I don't know. I can't know for sure, but I would actually really like to know it for sure. This is also one of the reasons why actually progressing in the realm of podcasting and actually doing a better job and trying to do a better job would make sense and really trying to get better and progress with that and so on and so forth. Like, I think that really would make sense just because it is something kind and it helps other people, as well as, okay, some other good deeds and helping my family and helping just anybody with whatever the fuck I'm doing. And also, as I've come to the conclusion, when I do a better job at work at this point in time or whatever job I'm going to have in the future, it is also going to do good to somebody. It's at least going to do good to my boss or somebody else that's above me in a corporate ladder, or maybe even some people like the society and whatnot, or people part of the society. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody from the corporation or whatever, but it could just also be somebody else. It's kind of a thought game, and sometimes this feels a bit off and feels like, okay, you can always structure things in a way or think through things in a way that are in the end gonna benefit you in terms of, okay, it is gonna play into my purpose. Okay, I'm gonna steal this person's money because this person is gonna think more about what this person maybe is doing and or whatnot. Like, yeah, you can somehow give reason to whatever the fuck you're doing and let it seem smart and good and whatnot. That's actually one word, but I've forgotten it, unfortunately. But I think the less you have to think about it and the less you have to structure ways in your head to make it fit into your purpose, the better it is, and the more virtuous the act is gonna be. Of course, if I give money to some people or just give money to charity, well, obviously this is a good thing and it is kind and it helps out other people. But yeah, what about stealing money? I really have to make a story up for me. Just now, I would actually really like to have the fucking word. I do not even know it in German. Anyway, let's go ahead. The judges retired to consider their verdict. They did not stay out long. They returned to an ominously silent courtroom and announced that a fine of $5,000 was imposed on Henry Reardon, but that the sentence was suspended. He will always be attracted to the woman who reflects his deepest vision of himself, the woman whose surrender permits him to experience or the fake sense of self-esteem. The man who is proudly certain of his own value will want the highest type of woman he can find, the woman he admires the strongest, the hardest to conquer, because only the possession of a heroine well, heroine. Is it heroine? Like hero and heroine, like the female version of hero, will give him the sense of an achievement, not the possession of a brainless slut. Yeah. Surprise, surprise. Having a brainless slut on your side may not be the smartest thing to do, to have, to whatever. Even though, brainless and or not being smart can be, can be some sort of applied to different ways. I mean, if you're an athlete and you're really willing to have somebody that is also athletic, well, maybe this person doesn't necessarily have to be good at maths, which is kind of the analytical or mathematical smartness, because there's different kinds of being smart or different kinds of smartness. Some people are very good in terms of athleticism, and some other people are good with logic. This is just two different types of being smart or smartness. And, it really depends on what you also consider being brainless. But the man who is convinced of his own worthlessness will be drawn to a woman he despises, because she will reflect his own secret self. She will release him from the objective reality in which he is a fraud. She will give him a momentary illusion of his own value and a momentary escape from the moral code that damns him. That's actually something that I've heard, like, if you're dating somebody or we are looking for people that are of a certain type, and sometimes this type is actually like our mother, for example, and or indeed like somebody that we do not like, or actually the way we view ourselves, and so on and so forth. Like, it really does make sense, what the author, is talking about there. Love is our response to our highest values and can be nothing else. Let a man corrupt his values and his view of existence. Let him profess that love is not self-enjoyment but self-denial, that virtue consists not of pride but of pity or pain or weakness or sacrifice, that the noblest love is born not of admiration but of charity, not in response to values but in response to flaws, and he will have cut himself into. Yeah, I mean, love is really a strong feeling and really a big thing, I'm not gonna lie. Dagny, he said, or Dagny, or whatever, looking at the city as it moved past a taxi window. Think of the first man who thought of making a steel girder, or girder, whatever. He knew what he saw, what he thought, and what he wanted. He did not say it, it seems to me, and he did not take orders from those who say, in my opinion. John Galt is Prometheus who changed his mind, or Prometheus, however you pronounce it in English, I don't fucking know. After centuries of being torn by vultures in payment for having brought to man the fire of the gods, He broke his chains and he withdrew his fire until the day when man withdraw their vultures. He was the man who robbed the rich and gave to the poor. Well, I'm the man who robs the poor and gives to the rich, or, to be exact, the man who robs the thieving poor and gives them back to the productive rich. You know, which is also a view that I can understand, to be honest. Like, yeah, you know, sometimes there are reasons why poor people are poor. You know, I do really want to underline and emphasize sometimes, you know, not always, not saying that. And I don't want to be like, okay, you know, this person is, yeah, like it's her fault or this person's fault that he or she is indeed poor, you know, as well as with the rich. Like, don't want to be like, okay, this person's rich, so he or she must be really smart, must be really good with money and whatnot. You know, it could be due to so many things that I just don't know about. You know, who knows? Maybe somebody's poor because there is a ton of medical bills, or maybe there's a ton of debt because of like inherited debt or whatever. Like, there's so many different ways and so many different facets of life and so many different shades of gray, you know, and I just don't want to judge as well, which is also a part for me to say, yeah, who knows? And the last one, well, no, I'm gonna stick with that one, to be honest. Gonna go ahead with this bit the next time, and I'm gonna see you the next time as well, hopefully. Bye bye.